Bradford Anderson, what is going on today?
I'm very excited.
Day.
Very excited. Very
you
special
should
day.
Be excited because all I hear on our appearances is questions about this young lady all the time about Spinelli and his love interest, Ellie.
Well, here's the thing: is like we could have multiple guests that would fall under Jason's paramours. My list is pretty short.
Yeah, it is.
But I couldn't be more delighted to be able to talk to one of my favorite people. We have Emily Wilson. Hi, Emily.
Hi. Hey guys.
What's up,
Thank
Emily?
you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
It's such a treat to see you, and the fact that obviously this is a virtual seeing you, but having seen you a couple months ago, this feels like
a treat.
Right. It feels like, this is normal. Now we're seeing each other on a regular.
I was just going to say, we already caught up in everything. So I know what's going on and now we can
Well, good. I don't know what's going on with you. So I can ask you. So I can ask a bunch of questions.
Yeah.
And so this is going to be amazing.
So the first thing that came to mind was, when, obviously Ellie came back for the holiday show. And that was really fun for a variety of reasons. Our characters kind of got to reconnect, have some good material. We got to see Georgie, who was the same little actress that's been playing her for I think 4 or 5 years.
I had never met before, so.
Oh, you had never met her.
Considering I raised her for all of that time, no, I had never met her.
Right.
Are we gonna get into that now about what a deadbeat dad Spinelli is? Because we could get into that. This guy's a deadbeat dad.
Well, actually, she's the right person to ask. Do you?
Well, hold on.
Okay.
Jason was notoriously a deadbeat dad. He was the #1 deadbeat dad in daytime. After hearing all your hijinks, I believe that you're #2 deadbeat dad, which would make sense because we are, friends and partners. So you are #2 because you left her somewhere in Oregon. Is that what?
No, I went with her.
I'm asking her, not you. Did he leave you in Oregon?
I think technically I broke up with him, I believe.
Okay, hold on. I'm not there yet.
Oh, I'm jumping the gun.
Okay. So he went up, he comes back with this beard because now he lived in Oregon, whatever. Right. And he's like an IPA guy now. So he comes down without his kid. He's leaving you there for years to raise Georgie, who's not yours. So thank you for being a great mom.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
I really
very sacrificial.
Mm-hmm.
You did. You stepped up a lot.
And I was happy to do it because Georgie's the best.
And when I would have scenes with him, he would like, I missed Ellie and Georgie. I'm like, come on, dude. You don't miss him.
Yeah, right.
You're right. I would take, when you first came back in 2018, Steve, in theory, Ellie and Spinelli were still in Portland.
Yeah.
Spinelli would like
coastal.
Oh, Portland. Yes.
Yes. So I guess I would take business trips to help you. So you enabled my deadbeat dadness. Anyway.
Right.
Oh, okay, great.
And I had enough of it,
And I would too. I've seen his on-air love scenes. I would have been too.
Speaking of things that are few and far between.
Yes.
But so we also got to award some pretty fantastic Disney branded pajamas.
We sure did, which I heard you could actually purchase on the Disney website or something, but they never really alluded to that. So it just seemed like we all had these ridiculous Disney Mickey Christmas pajamas for no reason.
Yeah. You didn't tell me, you left that part out.
We were the only ones. I think we were the only ones. We were handpicked to represent the brand.
Very, very special.
You were the beta test.
Well, it's funny of the families that you could dress up in Disney pajamas.
We track.
I guess so.
Yeah, we track.
Sure.
We track. Yeah.
Even
if they weren't trying to be advertised, it didn't even before I even knew that was kind of the plan. I was like, oh yeah, of course I'm wearing it. Ellie's wearing these.
Right. But it should if they're gonna do it, they should do it right. Have a couple. Have a couple couples do it, and then the next commercial. Hey, you can get your Disney pajamas at blah, blah, blah. Why wouldn't you do that?
That's what I was waiting for. And I was even half expecting for us to have to do some sort of PSA, posing them up. No, nothing. It was a very subtle plant.
Did you get your check from the Disney merchandise company?
Right. I think we did a cut of every pajama pant sold this holiday season.
That was the deal she made, buddy. You didn't make that deal. She made that deal.
You don't get back end on the merch?
She's fine, bro. She's fine. Look at her up there.
Amazing. All right. Well, so obviously people know you as Ellie, but you know, I remember when you first came on, I really learned about your backstory, and you have a really interesting kind of start to your entertainment career. Hosting, that was kind of your first big thing, right?
Yeah, right. I went to school for television production and
Awesome.
broadcast journalism. So yeah, it was kind of like
Love that.
everything in TV except acting was kind of what my, scope of knowledge.
Yeah, but let me hold on one second, right? How did that, like, when you made the transition? I know you're going to tell us how you got into acting though,
Sure.
but like, to have that experience besides the acting,
Yeah.
Was it like valuable just being on a set and the cameras and all that stuff? Yeah.
Yes, definitely. I mean,
yeah, I just brought that up because my son, all of a sudden, he tells me yesterday he wants to be a sportscaster, and I'm like, you need to go to broadcast school, buddy. So I'm interested in this.
and a lot of schools, they group their journalism program with communications.
Yeah.
Whereas I went to Chapman and it was part of the television school. So I actually think for me that was perfect because it did kind of give me that middle ground of having a background in television versus strictly having a communications background. So I did get to learn everything from directing and producing and I got to do the camera work and stuff. So it was really cool to get to kind of see all sides of it before I ever, kind of actually got onto a set.
Yeah. And
cool. So
why did you go to school for that? What about your youth made you go into that major?
That's a really good question, actually. I, for a long time, thought I was going to major in math. That was my favorite subject. I know that's so weird now.
You nerd!
I was like on the math team. I was like a competitive mathlete through high school. Yeah, and so I specifically went to a college that had like a very varied program. So it's a liberal arts school. So I knew I was going to be taking classes in every subject and I would have a little bit of time to kind of make a decision versus a school where you kind of have to like know what you're going to do going into it. But for the first year, I was really leaning toward math. And then I took one like intro to TV class and I loved it. Awesome. I just found that was the class that I was like responding the most to, that I was having the most fun with. I was excited doing the projects. And so I kind of switched gears and decided like, even at that point, I was a dancer growing up. So I have always loved the performing aspect of it. But for me, I actually fell in love with like the behind the camera stuff, which is why I continued to pursue that kind of, direction, and then really fell in love with hosting.
Yeah. And so what happened? How'd you get a hosting break?
So I was in college, senior year, in the middle of finals, and it was my first semester of my senior year. Oh my gosh, there's a cat behind me.
I know it's been behind you a long time.
Yeah.
Oh gosh,
I'm just so stalking you. It got up on its hind legs,
stalking us.
I know, and I have a lot of them, and we left one in the room because we're like, she doesn't move. She's so lazy in here.
Wait, what do you mean a lot? What's that?
How many cats do you guys have?
Don't
say
into that now.
No.
All right, that'll be later.
That's later. It'll like take us in a completely different direction.
Fantastic. All right.
I don't know if that's fantastic.
Yeah, it's not always.
So senior year.
I'll make it quick. Yeah. So I'm like working on finals, and my mom, I had given her my password to Facebook because it was like when you had to have a college email, so only people in college could. Remember that? Like you had to be, your school had to be like invited to Facebook.
I think I was NYU when I was in college. We didn't have Facebook, and so by the time social media came around, MySpace, yeah, for sure.
That's right.
Yeah.
So this was like just during the beginning phases of Facebook, and I was like, "Yeah, Mom, like you can see what I'm up to. Here's my password." And she goes, "Well," she goes, "There was just an advertisement for this KTLA, like competition. They called it the competition, and you could send in an audition tape of you." Reporting, hosting, and then they took all the submissions and they kind of narrowed it down. I think it started at 32, and we all went up to KTLA where they film the news and the morning show and met everybody. And then I don't even remember how they went from 32 to 16 to 8, and then it was just a week after week. They just kind of like it was like a reality show essentially, but every week you had a different project, and we were halftime courtside at the Clippers game, doing halftime reports, and they were actually airing
Cool.
on the KTLA morning show.
Wow.
Yeah, and so I ended up winning that, and that was
That's
kind
awesome.
of like that. Yeah, that's how it all kicked off.
So
and started.
what did winning it get you?
It got me $25,000.
What?
Gosh.
Yeah, I know. Well, as a college, I just, was getting ready to graduate college. So for me, that meant I got to move up to LA. That
Wow,
kind of meant,
for
okay,
sure.
I can see how this goes.
What year was that?
Oh gosh. 2007.
Wow, that's like $1 million.
Felt like $1 million. I'm like, at first I'm taking my family on vacation. My parents are like, no, trust us, you're gonna want to hold on to this money.
Yeah.
But when you're like, 21, you're like, no.
Totally.
So anyway,
I know,
yeah.
it's so funny. I know.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
So yeah, that's kind of how that I ended up there. I actually had a classmate who was an assistant at CAA and showed his boss my reel, or showed his boss. Maybe there was a conversation about the KTLA competition. I don't know how it went down, but he reached out to me. He's like, hey, my boss saw you on this thing, thought you were really great. Would you be interested in maybe meeting with her? And I was still in college. I didn't know anything about the business, Hollywood,
Sure.
LA, anything. I, at that point, was planning on sending you call it your resume tape all over the country. And then a city says, hey, we'll take you. And you go to that city and you work there for as long as you need to build tape. And then you kind of try to move up and up and up and up and up. And that's kind of
KTLA didn't want you. KTLA wasn't like, hey, now here's a job. It's like, good luck.
Well, that's the thing. So they had done the competition a couple times. And the previous 2 times they were adults. They opened it up to any adults. And the prize was a job. But for this particular one, because we were all college students, the prize was the money. And I was still in school, but they actually called me a few times afterward. Hey, so-and-so, just called in sick. We need somebody to fill in. Could you do it? So I did get a little bit of legitimate on-air hosting experience through KTLA, kind of right after the competition. But I was still in college. So it was difficult balancing a full workload and school load.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, in Chapman's what, an hour east or something? It's Claremont-ish?
It's down by Disneyland, 5 minutes from the happiest place.
Yeah, it's down by me over here, buddy.
Yeah,
okay.
Orange, good old Orange, California.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah. Fantastic.
Mm-hmm. So it was, it was a lot. It was awesome. It was so fun. And then it kind of parlayed into deciding through CAA, kind of being persuaded, hey, come up to LA. There's a lot of opportunities outside of news that you're at a great age for, could be really fun, a little maybe more exciting than having to relocate to, no offense to Iowa or,
hey,
somewhere random. No, yeah, sorry, anybody from Iowa watching.
They're super nice there. They wouldn't care.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
My whole family's from Nebraska, so I'm not judging. I actually really like Iowa. But it just felt like an interesting alt to what I had planned on doing. And so that's kind of how I ended up in LA.
So, but how did that go? I mean, because for people that are listening or watching, CAA is kind of the creme of the creme. That's the agency. That's
CAA and ICM were the ones when I was in the business. When I was in the business.
So that must have felt exciting, but also terrifying because once you get there, you don't want to lose it.
Right, and honestly, I think part of the fact that I was so naive was probably a good thing because I had no idea. When he reached out, he's like, my boss would love to sit down. I'm like, I wrote him back, Adam, so nice to hear from you. Listen, I'm super busy, finals, I'm going home for the holidays. For me, I was like, okay, let's talk later. Let's talk after the holidays. And then I'm like, let me just Google this place.
The CAA place.
I'm like, wait, my schedule just freed up.
Either he's like, she doesn't know what she's doing, or she's playing hard to get. Maybe we want her more. Right.
So I ended up really signing with they call it alternative TV. So it's not really scripted television. It's more hosting. It predated any sort of social media or even like streaming or digital
influencer
stuff.
reality.
It was
Yeah,
way
yeah,
before that. But it was more hosting, and yeah, so I started kind of auditioning and getting to do some really fun hosting jobs. I got to go to South Korea like within months of moving to LA, and
wow,
got to work for Disney. They're I don't know, they used to do this thing called the Movie Surfers, and it was like these you got to go to the premiere and be on the red carpet and like
cool.
interview
Nice. Yeah.
movie. So I got to do that a little bit, and then I had an audition for MTV News. And
oh, that's amazing.
Yeah. I was like, okay, like this is, for me, having grown up watching MTV, it was pretty cool, and I was excited to go in and read for this. And within a couple weeks of when I auditioned, my agent got a call. They're like, hey, MTV News is like going under, like it's no longer a thing. But does she do improv or comedy? My agent's like, let me ask her. And so she called me. She's like, hey, you do improv? I'm like, no, I really don't even know. I wouldn't even know what to do for improv. And she's like, okay, well, MTV News is not going to happen. They're no longer a thing, but he's now casting this thing called Disaster Date. And it's this improv dating show where, like there's going to be 6 or 8 daters, and you're going to go on these dates with people that don't know they're being set up and they don't know they're being recorded, and you're going to make it a disaster. It's kind of like Boiling Point. That's how it was sold. It's kind of like Boiling Points,
sure.
Where they get $1 for every minute they last on the show. Would you be interested in auditioning for it? You just go and you just pretend to be on like a really bad date. I'm like, well, I don't have any improv or comedy experience, but like that sounds really fun. So yeah, I'll try it. And so I went and did this audition and went on this fake horrible date. And apparently I was really good at it and really horrible
at being terrible. Yes,
really
terrible.
Horrible at dating. Like that was my niche. I'm like, no other improv show would have worked, but like for some reason this clicked, and I ended up. That was kind of my first segue into more of a structured television style.
Nice.
I ended up getting to do 3 seasons of this MTV reality dating show called Disaster Date.
That's amazing.
How many dates can you really go on before they worry that they're like, oh, someone's seen this show before, they've seen that girl play this part before?
That's why it's not on anymore.
Yeah, right. So they switched the cast up a little bit. So we shot 100 dates in the first season. Like because I think that was maybe the idea was,
it's like, let's get enough in the tank.
Yeah. So
100 dates. I'm trying to do the math on that money. That's pretty good.
Yeah, and we didn't get paid per date. But
dang it!
I know.
I was like, man, even if it was $500, you're rolling.
Right? And even if there was a cast of, I think 8 of us, 4 girls and 4 guys, and even if we weren't the dater, we got to be sometimes like some of the side characters. So
right.
we were in almost every date in some capacity. And I loved being the side characters. Like I loved being like the sassy barista and stuff. So
that's amazing.
It was really fun. It was really fun. And then yeah.
Was Jen Lilly ever part of that main cast or no?
She was, I believe she was either in the 2nd or the 4th season. So what happened was first season, 1 cast. Second season, because of what you said, they got a completely different cast. And then they brought 2 of us back in toward the end of that season to see how it would go, having had the show already started airing, to have some of the original cast come back. And it worked okay. So then they combined half of the first season, half of the second season, and did like a third season cast with both of us.
Right.
And then I think they went on to do maybe a 4th or 5th season, and with a totally different cast. Right. And I don't remember whether she was toward the end there or in the 2nd season.
So
can you?
I didn't meet her.
Okay. Is there any tape you can use from that, or is it its own? Do you know what I'm saying? Like.
Yeah. I mean, it's ridiculous. I guess you could use it honestly for like if you were to ever audition for like SNL. Like it's really big character, ridiculous. Like there was one where wired my mouth shut, so I was like injecting food like through a syringe, like through. It was wild, but they would play on people's kind of dislikes.
Yeah.
So the friend would set them up. The friend would say like, "Hey, my buddy hates girls who
That's funny.
are late, that hates girls who have bad hygiene, whatever it is. And then
Sure.
of course, as the date goes on, these things are revealed to the dater.
So when that was over, like like did you start doing some guest spots or did you get into
So then
kind of that was the transition into what you did? Yeah, cool.
Yep, exactly. So after Disaster Date, that's kind of when and I still was able to do some hosting jobs, and I still was able to kind of, thankfully, because I do feel like there was at that point where people were like, well, what would you rather do? Like, would you rather pursue hosting or would you rather pursue
There was
acting?
no both. There was no both.
Right.
There wasn't at the time, you know, it was this kind of like very narrow path that you had to choose. Of course, now people can do it all a little easier. But I did get that question a lot, and I never wanted to make a decision because I enjoyed both so much. And to be honest, I always say, like, even with General Hospital, I'm like, I couldn't have imagined 6 months before it happened that it would have ever been in the cards for me. So I'm so glad that I didn't feel like I needed to kind of make that decision.
Pick, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and nowadays with like all, you know, any public figure has like hosting skills now, because
I know, dude, it was so narrowed back then, because like, oh, you're either going to do film, oh, you're on a soap opera, you're on a soap opera, oh, you're a host, and there was like so much division.
There really
was really short-sighted, I think, because there's a lot of people who can do a lot of things.
And it was very separate, and I actually moved up to LA right about the time where hosts were starting to be phased out by professionals in that realm, right? So you went from
like HGTV stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, in order to host this show about, you have to have a degree or a background or experience in XYZ. And that was really frustrating to me. I'm like, I don't know anything about woodwork, but I do have a degree in hosting. Like, would that help? And they were like, yeah, but you don't make your own wood. I mean, that was a legitimate one that I don't remember what the show was, but they were like, yeah, but do you have any like craftsman skills?
Right.
And I was like, I put together IKEA furniture.
Right. Yeah.
It's still standing. So
I can whittle with the best of them.
That's right.
Exactly. So yeah, it was an interesting time for hosts, to be honest. So it was also definitely one of those times where I'm like, well, I'm glad to have something else to get to do as well, because hosting opportunities were becoming a little fewer and farther between as well.
Yeah.
Right.
Tell us about your General Hospital experience, how that came about.
So that was, I actually auditioned to play Sabrina.
Okay. Yeah.
And I they changed the names for the purposes of the audition.
Sure.
So I didn't know that at the time.
Right.
But I had gone in and read for Sabrina with Mark, and then had a call back, and that's when I met Frank. And as with any audition, you go, you do it, and then you kind of have to let it go and not overthink it, and not expect to hear anything, because that's the best way to kind of stay sane.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah. And so some time went by, and then got a call from my agent, and they're like, hey, listen, they went a different direction for Sabrina. I'm like, okay, you've heard that like a million times.
Different direction. Great.
Yeah. Yes. But the executive producer really loved you, and he thinks you could pair well with
Heyo.
Whoa.
So there's really not a specific storyline. This is what he said to me at the time, was it could be one episode, it could be 3 episodes, it could be 3 weeks of episodes. So in my mind, I'm like, whoa, I could do 3 weeks of episodes? Like, that was kind of at that point what I felt would have been best case scenario.
Sure.
Awesome.
And they're like, we're writing this character as we go. They didn't audition, as far as I know, and I don't know if there's a different story, but as far as I know, they didn't ever have auditions for Ellie. I think Frank saw me read for Sabrina, and then maybe had this character in the back of his head and was like,
great,
I see it.
Love that.
Right.
Yeah. So that's how Ellie came about, and I did 1 episode, and then I got to work obviously with you a little bit toward the end, Steve, and we got some fun. I think the three of us, sorry, there's 4 screens here.
Nice.
3 of us got to do some fun scenes, and then it just kind of kept going and kept going. And I'm like, this is incredible. And like, I didn't expect it to be as long-term, and I didn't know anything about soap. I didn't expect the soap world to be what it is either.
Yeah,
so it
sure,
was
that's
all
awesome.
just the best surprise that I ever could have imagined.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah, we had a lot of fun, and you know, it's
everybody always asks though. I was just saying, sorry to cut you off, because everybody does always ask about you when we're on the road.
Yeah.
So
really,
it's a testament to what you guys did, because people enjoyed it.
Nice.
Like
Oh,
we hear it
that's
all
so
the
nice.
time. Like, when's she coming back on the show? When's she coming back on the show? So it's very sweet.
That makes me feel a little bit emotional. Like you know, I've always said I like just being a part of daytime in general, getting to be a part of General Hospital, getting to play Ellie, who I feel was so perfect for me and for my sensibilities and for what I have fun getting to do. It was just the best. And, you know, even having gotten the call a few months ago to go back, I didn't even ask any questions. I was like, I'm like, they could be bringing me back to kill me in one episode, and like, I'm in. But
as long as I get to wear pajamas, I'm in.
I'm in for the Disney pajamas. But yeah, it was like a no-brainer. Like, it's so special to me. I feel so lucky to get to be a part of the daytime family and get to experience, you know, this kind of very niche, very special job that we get to have.
Right.
Yeah,
and then
awesome.
and then after you did this, you hosted a show with a wide receiver from the Packers, right?
Yeah. So that was pretty soon after, or you know, it was after kind of the main run of Ellie, and obviously, I came back a few times over the years, and but yeah, 2016 was Hero Effect, and so that went back to hosting. So again, it was like it was so flip flop, and that was a really special job as well. And I'm very thankful that I got to be a part of that, because it was a really neat show and it was very eye opening. And it was Steve, basically a show where Donald Driver, who was my co-host and now a really good friend, and I'm just like so lucky our paths were able to cross because of that as well. We went around the country and we highlighted people who had dedicated their life to making a change in their community for the better.
Awesome.
It was really neat. So we would really spend a week in each of these cities, and it was very important because it was partly funded by United Way. Oh. So, you know, the philanthropy aspect of it was very important to the show. It wasn't just like, we're going to roll into your city, we're going to interview you for a few hours, roll some B-roll, and then call it. Like, no, we were having meals with these people. We were visiting their homes. We were spending so much time with them and learning about them and hearing their stories, and, you know, meeting the people that they had changed and affected for the better. And I mean, every week we'd get done filming these episodes, and it was life-changing. It was crazy.
That's awesome. What's happening now? What are you up to now? What's going on?
So I'm a mom now, which is new-ish still. And so my daughter is almost 2. Amazing. And so you know, I kind of just spending a lot of time with her. It's still you know, as far as acting goes, hosting goes, like I'm still here and open to it. And, you know, obviously with the pandemic, there was that kind of lull. And that was really when I felt like, okay, you know what, like I'm really ready it kind of forced me to think outside of work. And that's when I'm like, okay, but maybe we'll try this kids thing, and got lucky and have Mira. And I'm like, I'm so glad. I'm not saying had the pandemic not happened, we wouldn't have had kids, but it was good timing for us. Yeah. And so, it's awesome. It's a new role.
Well, and speaking of amazing little things running around your house, the cats. What's going on?
No, let's save that for.
Are we ready?
For 7 questions. Nope.
Oh, okay.
We're gonna save that.
Okay.
So you have to tune in to 7 questions.
Okay.
Yeah.
With Emily to find out how many cats she has.
I know. I don't even know. Other than that, I don't even know what else really is going on. So.
Well, that's awesome. It was.
Give my best to your wonderful husband, who I adore.
And he says hi as well, of course.
Awesome.
He's was as excited as I was to be able to come back to the show and get to work with you. And obviously I think with any job, the people you're around and the people you get to work with really make or break the job. And I couldn't have ever asked for a better person to get to share the screen with than you. And I'm just so grateful that it's you. And really lucky. And obviously, on screen and off screen to have become friends with you and your family and everything is
it was a great time. It was a great time. And I feel equally as lucky. So
thank you.
I mean, there could have been someone better, but that was nice.
Hey, you only know what you know.
I know, that's right.
I'm kidding.
Emily Wilson, ladies and gentlemen.
Hey!
Emily.